So Africa's digital landscape is rapidly evolving, with more individuals, businesses, and governments across the continent connecting to the internet and utilizing digital tools to transform economic and social life. However, this growing connectivity, currently around 40%, brings significant cybersecurity challenges. Africa indeed faces various cyber threats, including data breaches, financial fraud, ransomware, and social engineering attacks, which impact sectors from finance to health and critical infrastructure. The outcomes from the African Internet Governance Forum in 2023 affirmed that cybercrime poses a considerable risk to realizing the AU 2063 agenda and the Digital Transformation Strategy 2030 across the continent. Furthermore, the recent WSIS Plus 20 review that took place in Tanzania on cybersecurity in Africa underscored the need for cybersecurity to be vigorously enhanced across sectors. And according to the UNECA 2023 report, Africa is at the lowest ebb in cybersecurity maturity at 29.1%. At the same time, cybersecurity failure costs between 5% and 10% of the African region's GDP. The report also justified the need for stakeholders, especially governments, to take cybersecurity maturity seriously, as a 10% increase in cybersecurity maturity enables up to 5.4% increase in GDP per capita. As cyber threats increase, so does the need for robust collaborative cybersecurity strategies that enable secure participation for all. The Africa Internet Governance Forum indeed is a pivotal platform for addressing these challenges and fostering opportunities for regional cooperation, policy formulation, and capacity development in cybersecurity. Therefore, this session will assess challenges, opportunities, priorities for immediate action to addressing Africa's current cybersecurity challenges, including that of infrastructure, funding, regulation, skills development, and awareness issue. It will promote a multi-stakeholder approach that includes government, private sector, and other stakeholders to contribute to the discussion. So as I said, I have a wealth of panelists here with me, and I'm going to give them their time, but this first introduction, we do a round of introduction, your name, your affiliation, and what you've been doing. We will take it around. So from Ross.
Thank you very much, and good to be here today. My name is Ross Gill. I work for the British government within our foreign ministry, the foreign office. I am based in Nairobi. I work as the head of our cyber network in Africa, and I manage a team of cyber diplomats that are based across the continent in some of our embassies and missions. As well as that, a lot of our work is focused on strengthening partnerships with African countries on cybersecurity, whether that's through capacity building or discussions around the multilateral space. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Jameson Olufie, my longtime friend. We've been together at Aficta as my boss. My name is Yusuph Kileo, a cybersecurity and digital forensics investigation expert. I've been in this field for more than 12 years now. And is it bad or good things about me? I was only trained in this area, cybersecurity and digital forensics in the United Kingdom, Staffordshire University. And after that, I've been working in the field of cybersecurity and digital forensics, starting with cybercrime unit. I was fighting cyber criminals in Tanzania. And I also joined in many other organizations after that. And up to now, I still push the agenda of cybersecurity and digital forensics across Africa. So I look forward to the very productive discussion, Dr. Jimson. Thank you.
Hi. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kosi. I'm a senior from Benin. I'm from Ministry of Economy and Finance in Benin. Previously, I work for Ministry of Development as Director of ICT. Now I'm supporting private sector in Ministry of Economy and Finance. I'm also the chairperson of the NGO called Women Be Free. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, great panelist. Well, there's this analogy I gave when I had to speak in the Nigerian Senate some times back, when we were reviewing the Nigerian Cybercrime Act. And I'm going to just talk briefly about that synergy or analogy, and then ask Ross to speak to it in terms of strengthening, the cyberspace. When I was making that presentation, I made an analogy with the terrestrial security. To handle terrestrial security, we have the military, the army, the navy, the air force. We won't have the police and the paramilitary agencies. So security is a big business, terrestrially. And on the basis of that, I said, okay, what structure do we have to handle cyber security? Because whatever we experience offline happens also online. So what are we doing? Because we don't have, say, Air Force of the cyber, we don't have the Army of the cyber, we don't have the Navy of the cyber, and things like that. So just to justify that I need for some organs, governance framework. So Ross is quite interesting because the UK government has done a lot. We know that they have been engaging other government stakeholders to boost their cybersecurity posture. So what have you been doing? Can you tell us how it's been? Have you supported us thus far in fulfilling your own mandate? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you're right. We don't have the same infrastructure in terms of army or police and defense to call on in the cyberspace. But I think there are inherent advantages about what we can rely on in cyberspace as defenses that we don't have in conventional crime or warfare. So the private sector, for example, has a lot more innovation, ability to be more agile and responsive to cyber issues. There's an incredible wealth of talent around the world in cybersecurity. And I think one of the particular elements of that that's quite exciting is the connection with young people. A lot more people are inherently digitally native now and are coming up with responses to cybersecurity issues in a way that is a lot quicker and we wouldn't see in a conventional security space with an army or police force. And it's good that at the IGF, including the Africa IGF, there is a youth track. And I'm sure a lot of people that are actively involved in that will be defining the cybersecurity responses of the current day, but and definitely the future. And those are quite exciting innovations in the security space. I think as well as that, one of the things that we find is very important is information sharing and collaboration across different sectors and between government, with private industry, with national utilities, and then internationally. And I think that's quite a core part of the cyber response that strengthens us all. So in the UK, the National CERT, for example, they issue a lot of technical advisories. They release information about threats that we're seeing, and that can be at a sectoral level, so particular threats that are, say, being discovered in utilities or energy sector, or targeted towards small businesses or individuals. And publishing some of that notifications is quite actionable. It's something that other organizations can deploy in their defensive, they can react to, they can ensure that they're taking the right measures, and so forth. We always encourage transparency around notifications like that, and our advisories are things that we know that are popularly received by many other partners outside of the UK, whether it's different governments or different sector leads around the world. And then also that information sharing between different institutions around the world we think is really crucial. So part of our work in Africa is about building a network of responders or governments, law enforcement agencies that are actively involved in cyber defense. And that includes obviously CERTs, but then there is important work taking place through the African Union to discuss some of these issues and some of these contemporary threats, but also through organizations like Interpol and Afripol that are very much focused on cross-border collaboration and investigations. And the work on that we know is already leading to disruptions and takedowns of networks and arrests. So I think that kind of international law enforcement space is very important for cybersecurity. It's harder to do in the defense world because there's often a lot of politics around defense, but it's more easy to do in law enforcement. And I think it's going to be a big part of our fight going forward, particularly in Africa, where there is quite a good institutional network across the continent already.
Okay, thank you very much. I will come back to you, to take you up on the other institutional framework. Yusuph, please tell us, how can we strengthen our cybersecurity ecosystem? View of your wild experiences.
Okay, thank you very much again, Dr. Jimson. I think first, when we discuss about cybersecurity, we normally forget to address that currently in Africa, for example, we have a huge number of people who are very good when it comes to cybersecurity. I give you an example. In Tanzania, for example, we have few universities now offering cybersecurity and digital forensic courses. We have a different ongoing capacity building where we build our own people. But very unfortunately now, the mechanism to utilize the skill sets, the story of awareness, the story of capacity building, as my colleague here has mentioned, the story of collaboration, how do we collaborate across within the countries and across different countries in Africa. That's where now the problems start lying. I'll start with utilizing, and I always offer a simple way of achieving our target. That when it comes to skill sets, we have those individuals finishing schools, finishing universities in this field per se. So we can always find a way to incubate them instead of leaving them on the street, absent jobs. So we incubate them in the in a center, and this can only happen if our countries could start thinking of having a single big organ that deals with cybersecurity within that particular nation. So after we incubate those people, we can utilize them effectively, and we can be able to get a lot of good output out of that. But also when it comes to capacity building, I think in most of our countries, we don't really take this cybersecurity issue very serious. You find if there are courses or there are trainings that we need to equip our people, they may provide different kind of courses. And then when it comes to cybersecurity, then probably you may not get enough people to be well equipped. On top of it, now we lack also awareness. And I always advise our countries that we should not take cybersecurity awareness for granted, because it really helps us mitigate a lot of challenges before they happen. Because for individuals to fall victims of cybercrime, it always, all cybersecurity incidents, they always have what we call human element. That someone has done something he was not supposed to do. Someone clicked a certain link that he was not supposed to click, and so on and so on. So all these can be mitigated through good cybersecurity awareness programs within our countries, which unfortunately most of African countries we don't take them serious. And also we can also mitigate through good cybersecurity policies. And that also we find a lot of countries, they don't have good cybersecurity policies in Africa. So we need to enhance on that particular area so that at least we can scale up our cybersecurity. And the last thing before I give back the mic to you is about collaboration. I always say we can't fight cybercrime or we can't fight cyber criminal in isolation, whether within the country or across border. We have to work together. For example, we may go to countries, you find there are many different entities that are fighting cybercrime. But unfortunately, you find those, there is no mechanism for them to communicate, which impact to a lack of collaboration within those institutions from different countries across Africa. So I always encourage our African countries to think about collaboration from within and see how our institution, our countries can work together to fight cybercrime. And then at the end, we can start joining hands with other African countries to make sure that cyber criminal, we can be able to fight them as one. That's that. I will end up now, and if there will be any other question and things to address, I'll add up later. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for the way you put it, bringing all those wealth of experience into play. I'll move to Dr. Kusi. You've been doing a lot of work in Benin, your country, and digitalization has taken your country even to tier 2, I guess. Tier 2 on the Global Digital Compact Index. So what do you think we can learn, the rest of us can learn from Benin's experience to strengthen our cybersecurity posture across Africa?
Thank you very much. In Benin, when we start digitalization, we know that criminality on cyberspace will be a problem. We build directly our own strategy, cyber security strategy, and we put on table, we organize some people like CCHAT, National CCHAT, and have one agency for information online evaluation, information online collection, information online analyzing. And we know that it's not be easy for us to catch all cybercriminals everywhere. To do their job very well, we ratify Malabo Convention to let us negotiate and collaborate with all the other African countries. After that, we also ratify Budapest Convention to have more negotiation with European people and someone and that. But it's not easy to take care of the security of the data everywhere, every time. We have a problem with finance area, with a bank and some microfinance agency, and we decide nationally to have the team in each area, in each agency, each ministry, each private big company. We have a team to take care of information, to know what is doing inside. They have also a mandate to sensitize their people on what is a good information to share or to the link we can use, or you don't need to click on. We have many sensitized action on that in private area, all the bank, all the microfinance agency. We have also in energy agency, a water providing agency. We provide that kind of team in the different area. All of them are working with a national cybersecurity team to know exactly what action they can do at what time. When it's difficult for them, national agency take the lead and do all the action we need to make to secure the critical infrastructure we have there. That is the experience I can share now.
Quite proactive. No wonder you move to tier 2. I'm sure maybe by the next iteration, you move to tier 1. Okay. Well, let me get back to Ross. Like, what are the institutional framework that you have in the UK? You talk about the SAT. Are there other things that need to be in place in terms of cybersecurity governance, across Africa that you already have in UK right now?
Yeah, in the UK, I mean, I think one of the key things is to not try and replicate what one country has in another, because every country has its unique culture, its own systems and institutions, and also everyone's doing this in a slightly different time and way. And when we designed some of our systems, it was in response to certain issues that we were facing at a given time. I think the key things for us are we have a strong National Cybersecurity Centre, the NCSC. They have a lot of technical skills and they're quite strongly empowered. They work well across government, but also they work very effectively with our private sector. So they're able to work with them on response to issues, but also to help mitigate. They issue a lot of guidance, and I'm glad that you mentioned the importance of the human element and awareness campaigns, because that's one of the areas that can make the biggest difference, and they're quite invested in. So how can we improve cyber hygiene? I think we have clear mandates within our different ministries on policy ownership, and that all contributes to the societal resilience that we have in the UK, or that we're aspiring to have. So we have a big focus on the development of cyber skills, which is important for every country. And I don't think probably any country in the world has probably got as many skilled cyber practitioners as it would like, but it's important to be working towards a greater cohort of cyber practitioners. We also have within our Interior Ministry clear focus on the domestic resilience. And I think what we're moving towards now is greater focus on critical national infrastructure. At the moment, we have policies that are outcome focused on and through frameworks that stipulate how they should be protecting some of those sectors. But it may be that some countries want to go further than we currently have and put that in legal means, so that there are requirements for whether it's utilities or other parts of the national infrastructure to have adequate cybersecurity in place. And that clearly places an onus on some of the most vulnerable parts of a country. And I think a lot of that starts with an assessment of really trying to understand where a country's vulnerabilities lie. So there's a colleague here from Libya, for example, and they have an economy that is very rooted in the oil and gas sector, and clearly that's going to be one of the most the biggest vulnerabilities or biggest risks. So they would likely want to pay great attention there, whereas other economies are a bit different. And I think it's that kind of analysis and looking at the economic vulnerabilities and then focusing on policy development and frameworks that respond to that are quite critical, as well as the sort of societal skills development, cyber hygiene and so forth that are proving quite crucial.
Excellent. Well, ENISA is a European-wide cybersecurity agency, and the United States also has the cybersecurity agency. Do you have such institutional framework in place in the UK? I will also ask that to Yusuph. But do you have something like an agency responsible to coordinate all this, oversee what is going on?
We have the National Cybersecurity Centre, which would be our equivalent agency.
Thank you. Yusuph?
Dr. Jimson, that's a very good thing. Actually, this is one thing that I always push to our countries. But very unfortunately, in Tanzania, currently we do have a small unit dealing with cybersecurity. And the focus now, we are pushing the agenda. And I think by the end of, probably middle to end of next year, we might have a proper organ that will be dealing with cybersecurity. But currently, as we speak, we don't have, and I understand it's quite important because it will be responsible to coordinate all the incidents, to respond to all the incidents within the country. If there is any small unit within the country that deal with cybersecurity now, it will be like a coordination center where they can share, they can be able to do all those incubation, understand the skill sets, do the awareness for the country, do different kind of things. So I think it's something I've fight for, and currently I think the country understand, and we are pushing towards that part.
Okay, very good. It's a very important indicator in the assessment by the ITU with respect to the Global Cybersecurity Index. It's a very important indicator. Okay, let me also ask Kosi, you have such an agency?
Yes, you have one agency called National Digital Investigation Agency. You have one Director General there.
Okay.
All of own specific team working with him.
Excellent. I think I know now why you are in tier 2. And we are still working on that in Nigeria. We do not have, say, an agency to oversee cybersecurity activities. We're working towards that. That's why you are still in tier 3, but I'm sure we'll get to tier 1 before you. Okay. Well, I want the audience to say one little thing or the other, or ask question, a comment. 1 minute. 1 minute. Are you doing some assessment in your country? What can you say? How come Ghana is at the top level? Okay, Wisdom.
Thank you very much. Mine is a bit far away from that. Just want to say that I'm a bit sad that the panel is not balanced. So this is a critical topic that we need to include a female in whatever thing that we are discussing. So on this note, I want to move that motion for us to include a female on the panel. And then Toko here has agreed, if allowed, to join the gentleman on the stage.
If you recall, I recognize 2 of you as members of the panel on the other side. Toko, over to you. No, intervene right there. We don't have much time.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Dr. Jimson. Thank you, Wisdom, for the contribution. I think it's very important that we mention this because it has been quite an awkward room from the start of this panel. We were all concerned by the fact that there was a lack of female representation on this particular panel, and also concerned by the lack of a youth perspective. You know, I think if we're going to look at continental practices, especially when we're looking at best practices for cybersecurity, if we're not going to include a sustainable role for gender and a sustainable role for practice and implementation, if we're talking about the establishment of center, it doesn't make sense as to what exactly these specific centers are going to be doing if they're going to be led by only one sector of the population, if they're going to be male-led, and if they're not going to be inclusive and diverse to all people. You know, somebody used an interesting point the other day, and they said, if you've got to go out to war, and you only take half of the army, and the other army takes their full army, why are you going there? Right, and this is the point that we'd like to bring across. Another critical point is in terms of capacity building. I think within the panel there was a lot of talk from a cybersecurity implementation towards a policy and awareness point of view, but if you're going to have these centers and they're going to, so in South Africa, we've got a similar cybersecurity hub. And the framework for this hub was built in collaboration with the community. It was an open stakeholder engagement that led to it taking place. And now the hub sits within the department. But if you're going to have hubs and you're going to have centers of knowledge sharing, it's very important that you then capacitate your population for you being there. There is no reason Africa should be spending its funds and making investment so that particular small groups of people can have conversation for the golf course. That is highly inappropriate. And it doesn't matter to what extent any particular person feels that they have the cybersecurity expertise or that they are enjoying, their profession or whatever privileges they have. Capacity building and development for African citizens is critical. It's critical, and it's very important that we do then include women and youth within this context and
Thank you very
in
much.
these centers. Thank you.
The point is very well made. And I indicated that even in Africa, we have a ratio of 8-2 women in the leadership. But anyway, in this regard, we did not deliberately say, okay, women should not be on this panel. We recognize that, yes, you are in the hall, and we want to give the room to other ladies in the room to intervene. Please, apart, you say, like, it's inclusive. It concerns all of us. Security is everybody's business, even at home. The man is responsible for security, but the woman too have to do what they need to do. So, other intervention from the ladies on our panel on the other side. Don't look at panel just here. Panel is also there. Look at all the women there. Okay, Fatih. Any other intervention?
We were late to the open session. It will be good to get some guidance on what a background so that the responses will be well aligned with the conversation. Some of us really enjoyed the meal and stayed back for some chats.
Okay. Well, for the benefit of those that came later, the session is about how do we strengthen cyber security in Africa, digital ecosystem. How do we strengthen it? And we have Ross here giving us best practices in the UK, and has been intervening in the African context, creating collaboration, awareness. And Yusuph has spoken about the need for capacitation, strong awareness, very seriously. And Dr. Kosi spoken about institutional framework, especially how to mobilizing contacts people in different sectors in their economy, okay, on how to really get to maturity. So the question now is, how do we continuously assess ourselves? I can see Dr. Martin working in, how can we continuously assess ourselves? Dr. Martin of the Global Forum for Cyber Expertise. Dr. Martins, I'll just give you 2 minutes before we throw it back. I want to recognize more ladies in the hall now that we get the background. Yes, Dr. Martin.
Thank you very much for giving me this platform. My name, once again, is Dr. Martin Koyabe. I work for the Global Forum on Cyber Expertise, but in Africa. We've had a number of deliberations since the beginning of this particular forum, but more specifically, we've been looking at capacity building and specifically looking at what are the interventions that we need to make when it comes to capacity building on cyber specifically. There are a number of countries that have made what we call strides towards what we call the positive strides towards establishing more resilience, having what we call strategies and policies that are very progressive. When you look at the ITU stacks, it shows that Africa has a number of countries in the tier 1, which is very a big shift. There is also improvement when you look at specific countries that have made significant strides within the continent.
And I can point out Togo, for example. They've made significant strides when you look at how they've been assessed. What that means is that these efforts that are going on, and we see from the top going down, some of the strategies, especially the Malabo Convention, and even the AI strategy that has been adopted within the continent, making very, very significant impact. There are 4 areas that we need to really watch out. The first one is, of course, the issues of strategies, policies, regulations, and making sure that legislations are aligned to what we are talking about when we talk on issues to do with cyber or cyber capacity building. The second issue is the issue around the critical infrastructure. How do we make sure that we have resilience, and not just resilience, but at least sustainable resilience within our infrastructure? Because most of the countries are actually looking at for digital transformation, they are installing infrastructure. We need to have resilience within that infrastructure. And therefore, certs, critical infrastructure protection, doing reviews in that kind of sector will be very useful. There are areas to do with capacity building when it comes to awareness, and more specifically, when it comes to issues of R&D, research, and making sure that we use data to make sure that we make decisions that are favorable, but more importantly, to be able to invest in specific areas. Coordination, collaboration across borders is very significant. That's why we are in this room, to make sure that we can collaborate, we can coordinate, and therefore the issues around cross-border data transfer, cross-border data management becomes very fundamental. And then lastly, we also need to look at funding. How do we make sure that we have funding that is sustainable for some of these particular aspects? So that's some of the things that we've been looking at going forward. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Quite comprehensive within a very short period of time. We have 5 more minutes. I'll still give room to any of our ladies, distinguished lady engineers, to speak to the issue of network. Right now, we are mostly using IPv4 in Africa, and there's been a lot of nothing, so, and as a result, combating cybercrime and securing our systems is a challenge. So perhaps there is any of our lady engineer that could talk to the need for IPv6 and what benefit could bring to us. Nena?
I didn't intend to say anything. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nina from the internet. I don't want to talk about IPv6, but wanted to raise another thing altogether, if you would, Mr. Moderator, and that is digital citizenship. And Martin, I've been to some of your sessions and I found them insightful. I've taken a lot of notes. Because most of us are Africans, I think that we need to reflect on citizenship in the digital era. So last I was in the UK during the COVID, I was struck by something that the UK government did. I was given a test kit by the UK government and asked to take my own swab, to test it, and to report to the government if it's positive. And I'm like, heck, this government trusts me to this level? And I was given a number. I mean, for a government to build trust on itself and its citizens, the NHS is the most trusted institution in the UK, and it has to do with health. UK citizens trust NHS with their personal data. Now, all of us here, I'm Nigerian, and I have a national ID card, a national ID number, but I don't have the card yet. How many of us have a viable national ID card? For those of you who've traveled, you might have had your certificate, your passports. But at home, most of us don't have a viable ID. You've talked about nothing, that is on a networking level. If a crime is committed and we need to prosecute, you need to first of all identify this person. So I just want to lay on our table, as we reflect as Africans, the need for identification of who we are and even identification in the digital era, because that is the basis of governance. We talk about demographics, we're talking about 60%, 70%. Who are these people? Where are they? How can you find them? So I want to put on this honorable table that digital citizenship begins with the digital ID, and that people need to be identified, because if you identify the individual, then it is very easy to identify the phone that belongs to the individual. It is very easy to identify the IP address that belongs to that individual. And finally, as I will always say again, building trust is our greatest merchandise, whether we are government or civil society or industry. Building trust in technology remains our common objective. So that when you ask me to invest, Mr. Moderator, as you do in Africa, you are weighing the trust that you have in a certain place. If the government is asking me to do something technology-wise, I will ask myself, can I trust the government to be able to put my data in their hands? If the government has trained me enough in digital citizenship for me to understand that the security of my country depends on me being responsible, then the government can trust me. Finally, I don't know if I've made any remark that is interesting or even intelligent. I don't know if I'm rambling, but I'm just saying that for digital citizenship to stand, we need to build trust, and building trust begins with digital identity that is secure, that we can all build upon. We are 1 billion. But where are we online? Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Always sweet to hear from you. The way you put it, I love it, because everything needs to be identified. So that justifies the need for IPv6, because with IPv6, everything on the internet can easily be identified. Is that correct? Exactly. Very good, very good. Any other lady? So that want to say something, ask a question to the panel? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the panel. Actually, the cybercrime, we are talking about very huge and threatening issue. And the more we go into digitalization, the more we are threatened and we feel unsafe. And definitely the women are the more vulnerable and the more people who can be affected by the cyber crimes. I don't think that there will be a solution anymore. It's the more we get into the digitalization and the more we get online, the more we will be affected or subject to cyber crimes. And no matter the governments are competing cyber crimes, but we find the good hackers who can even compete what the governments are doing. By the way, I'm an engineer also, but I'm not working specifically in this. I don't know what to do. I don't know what is the way. It's frightening. And the more we use digitalization in everything, in our power plants, in all the infrastructure, the more we are threatened and could be affected. And like what happened in several countries, we are always worried that maybe one day we find that we are in blackout because someone hacked the power plants and we just don't have electricity anymore. I don't know if this is ringing a bell, but I think this is the way forward from now on, and I don't know till when.
Yeah, you raised something fundamental. Okay, should we remain fair? Yes. The last question. Can see it's balanced now. The panel is balanced. So another female there.
Sorry, Doctor. I quickly wanted to intervene here.
Yeah, Fatih.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Moderator. I'm very excited that you continually throw back that opportunity. It's very, very important, the question you're asking about cybersecurity. I might not have specific response as it concerns IPv4 or IPv6. But like Madame has just mentioned, the world we are now, the opportunities on digital platform, especially for women and young people, children, child online safety, old people, for training, digital skills, digital education, more women businesses, online, Instagram, Facebook, and those things. We need to employ a reverse engineering to address issues that concern cybersecurity. So whatever programs, whatever platforms we're designing, we need to go back. What are the openings through which people can be attacked online or are vulnerable to security issues on the internet? As we backwork that, it will help us to integrate and design mitigation, adaptation solutions to issues about cybersecurity, especially for women, because increasingly, as more women work from home, run businesses on Instagram, Facebook, this mitigation and attention to cybersecurity issues are very, very important. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, so gentlemen, how can you calm the nerves of our population, significant population, in regard to this cybersecurity issues, cybercrime? Yes, Rose? Oh, maybe 30 seconds. 30 seconds was already.
I think the key thing for me is the fundamentals still matter. So you hear a lot of conversations about AI and future technology, and obviously that is important, but the human elements matter as much today as they did 10, 15 years ago. So if we get our online behaviors right, if we as individuals, small businesses, large businesses take the basic precautionary measures and, whether it's safe online behavior or updating software, that makes a huge difference. And I think that's the fortunate thing in everyone's favor, is there is a lot of control and opportunity to take defensive actions ourselves.
Very important. And that underscore capacity development that Yusuph and Dr. Martin has been talking about. Yusuph, you want to just add a point before we wrap it up and give it to you?
Well, thank you, Dr. Jimson. I'll respond to two interventions. The first one is that, yes, cybercrime is indeed a borderless crime with tremendous destructive power. And well, you spoke very well that now we have things like attacks on critical infrastructure. People, they can shut down electricity, can shut down many things, transportation systems and all. And it's really getting scary every now and then. But one thing I can assure you is that, first of all, we can't really finish all cyber crimes in any country. We can always, that's why we normally tell people that you need to do the best you can to keep the cyber crime in your country at minimal level. So we cannot finish all cyber crimes. And then the story of you spoke something very interesting, child online, and I could share with you that in Tanzania we started a very, very comprehensive project. We called it COP, Child Online Protection, and we are doing a great job on child online protection since it was launched February this year, on 10th February this year, and we have this belief that the children nowadays, they are well exposed on digital world, and their way of understanding things is a little bit not like we can differentiate the good and bad. So we invest a lot on that area to make sure that at least the next generation will be not only digital safe, but also be aware of the threats that are around them and how they can mitigate those challenges so that we can have a better society in the future.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. To Kosi, less than 1 minute.
Yes, we need identification for people. We need also to identify all the equipment online. We need to investigate every time. We need for that IPv6 to use everywhere in Africa.
Thank you, Dr. Man.
Yeah, let me try and see if I can convince the audience in what we need to do, especially when it comes to reducing cybercrime. I agree that identity is key, But the point is that we need also to be sure that we can be trusted to hold citizens' data. So that means putting infrastructure that is robust, but more importantly, the policies and also the procedures of how we deal with citizen data. But let me try and zoom in when it comes to cybercrime, but specifically looking at the small to medium enterprise. And I agree with Ross that that's a sector that has not been dealt with very, very well when it comes to how we protect that sector. African countries, 75% of our GDP and above is actually from the SME sector. So if you look at the SME, and they're the biggest employers. So that means we have a duty to support that sector in terms of how we can support them when it comes to cyber. There are 2 interventions or 3 interventions that could be done. One is you could have what we call the essentials of what we call cyber hygiene for that sector, because it is just simple stuff of passwords, making sure that you change your password, make sure that you patch up your system and so forth, that could actually inhibit what we call a threat to a system or even to the economy of some of these countries. In order to do this, there is 3 areas that needs to be considered. One is the policy intervention. It's a supply and demand. So we need policies that can be able to create the demand to be able to have certification of some sort when it comes to that sector. There is also the cost of certification. Most of these certifications are based in countries that are abroad. If you're talking of $100 to pay for a certification, that's a lot of money for an SME or somebody on the streets in most of our capitals. So therefore, the cost of how you certify needs to be looked at. And then finally, building capacity. You need to have assessors that understand how do you make sure that you can assess a specific organization or an entity to make sure that they can be able to understand what they need to do when we go forward. So building that capacity is important. And it's important that governments invest in the resource that we have. And I always say the resource that Africa has is the human resource that we have. And if you think about it, we've got roughly about, right now we are 1.4 or 1.7 or something like that billion people within Africa. In 2050 will be something like 2.5 billion. Out of that 2.5, 40% will be youth from this particular continent. So therefore, if we invest in the youth, making sure that they're able to understand standards, essentials that we are talking about, that will be very useful. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for that good response. We need to continually build that skill set, capacity, and know-how to enhance our cyber security posture. And I'm going to leave off with this. I've been talking about it, that we need to really assess ourselves continuously. All the points raised about SATs, collaboration, cooperation, partnership, funding, planning, and even technical installations like IPv6, all those requirements have been integrated in a model called the Triple Cybersecurity Maturity Model. It is freely accessible as at this point. You could check it out at tcmm.africa, tcmm.africa. All the indicators are there that you can get familiar with it. But most importantly, as my panels mentioned, hygiene, cyber hygiene, what we need to do, and capacitation, very, very important across all sectors. I want a lady to wrap up for us. I want to give a lady that honor. Toko, you want to just one sentence because they want me to wrap it up right now. One sentence.
Thank you for that. So yeah, I wanted to add that it's very critical that we do follow our actions in what we do, not just that we have conversations, but then we do what feels good, because sometimes it can be an anti-reflection. So we must also ensure that this is reflected in our cybersecurity policies. Frameworks for Africa should actually protect marginalized and vulnerable communities on the internet. We should ensure that our private sector, our end users, our rural communities, our capacitated communities are well protected, and that we work together towards a thriving cyber safe Africa that we can all be proud of.
Fantastic, fantastic. Action, 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 right? Excellent. Thank you. So we are very well balanced.
Yeah, that's right.
Though you are seeing men here, there are a lot of women on the planet there, so we are both on the top table. So I want to say thank you to Ross. Thank you very much for your intervention. Yusuf, thank you. Dr. Kusi, thank you very much. And Dr. Martin, always good to hear you intervene. Thank you all, and keep safe on the internet. God bless you.